Hi, thanks for joining me today. Are you struggling with a stepchild or stepchildren that really hate you? I mean, things might have started well, but you can't believe how bad it's become. I post once a week, so subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell, and I'll let you know every time I post. It is surprisingly common how many stepchildren will say that they hate their step-parent. Often the relationship can start off really well, and I mean that. You meet the child's parent and you start dating, and initially things can be entirely different. Then when you become an established couple, the child can quite soon and quite dramatically change their approach and become quite unpleasant. And by unpleasant, I mean blank you when you're in the room, not even acknowledge your presence. They can be quite rude, often behind other people's backs. They can be quite destructive. They can ruin things. They can ruin plans that you've made or things in the house. They can be very, very obstructive. And this can be very, very hurtful because you're entering into a relationship with their parent and you're really wanting things to go well. But any amount of effort you put into the relationship seems to get blanked. When you're coming across this kind of thing, I really want you to pull back and not take this personally. If you're recognizing any of those kind of behaviors, then this is unlikely to be about you. It's much more likely to be the child's inability to accept the changes that are being forced upon them. They are resenting and resisting it. The other thing the child is very likely to be going through is grief. With change comes loss, and with loss comes grief. Even if you really, really, really want the change, and you've recently had a change if you're setting off in this new relationship with a new partner, you're excited for the change and you're looking forward to it. But even you, in all your excitement, will also be experiencing a little bit of loss of what was before. If you're wanting the change, then you're keen to go ahead with it. But if you're not wanting the change, and actually you'd prefer things to stay as they were, however bad they were, you want them to stay, then suffering the loss and managing the grief is huge. That grief has to go somewhere. And if you're not wanting the change, you'll give all sorts of change back signals, which is, I don't want this, I don't want the way it's going, I'm going to do everything in my power, even subconsciously, to stop it. So they will scupper it. And if they think they can get rid of you, they will try. And sometimes they succeed. So how is it best to handle this kind of a situation? Well, to be honest, it's not pleasant to behave in an unpleasant way. You don't get that much niceness from it. in fact, you're creating an environment which is horrid, and is quite isolating for them, and they don't like being nasty, but they are doing it to get attention and get what they want. And so I do feel that when you see a child, and this child can be an adult, behaving like this, what they're actually doing is they're in quite a difficult spot, and they're grieving. Now, you'll probably say to me, well, but I'm putting up with an awful lot of bad behaviour and I don't like it either. And I agree with you too. But how do you solve the problem? Well, one of the things is to help is to dodge that ill feeling that comes your way and view it as this is them and their grief. They're having trouble managing the changes. What I'm seeing in their behaviour is just a realisation of that grief, but it's not, however much it seems it, is directed at me. This is somebody who needs help, not somebody who's just nasty for the sake of it. That's tough. I know it's tough. And you could say, well, it's not my job either. And it's not your job either. You're right. But that's not going to get you anywhere, is it? So, one of the best things is to see them as somebody who's going through a very difficult stage in their lives. Now, how do you cope with somebody who's going through a difficult stage in their lives? Well, you don't give in to them. You know, they're not right in what they're doing, but what they've got to do is just get through it. So, one of the things is to really listen to what their problem is, and I don't mean the problem with you, I mean, why is it that they're feeling stuck in their life, that they don't like the change, they maybe didn't want their parents to get divorced, they prefer their parents to still be together. And sometimes there are opportunities for talking to them about that. Now, if they're sort of in bolshy mode with you, maybe that's not possible, but sometimes it is. And sometimes you're quite a useful person to talk to about it, because you are not one of their parents, and the person that they're really, really, really angry with is actually their parents for what they've done, but they don't want to be angry at their parents because they don't want to lose their parents, but they don't mind losing you. So what I'm saying is, sometimes there's opportunities to talk to them about what's really upsetting them, as opposed to what's upsetting them about you. But if you can get to that and listen to them, it's helpful for them to talk it out. Because while things are still thoughts in your head, they're whirring round and they're not really ordered or sorted. But if you talk things out, then by talking it out, you have to translate it into language, and that enables you to think things through and put a bit more logic into it and think through your reasoning and understand the meaning on it. And then from the meaning comes a different perspective. And if you feel understood, you're prepared to forgive quite a lot. You know, if somebody says to you, I know you're really hurting, and I can quite see that you feel as though your mum and your dad could have done it differently. Even acknowledging that can calm somebody down. At least they've been heard, it's been understood, you understand where it's coming from, and they can feel better going forward. Sometimes you can find things to do together with the child that hates you. The child that hates you doesn't really hate you. They hate the situation they're in, and you're the receptacle. But if you could find something you could do together that can give you that chance to talk to them, just anything, and be careful if you can to, when you do get the opportunities to talk to them from really getting to know and understand them, rather than also enabling them to understand you. You do the listening, you do the understanding. I would say that that is much more valuable than what many step-parents do, which is, instead of actually just talking to them, you spend money on them. You might buy them gifts that they want, or you might give them things that you know they want. But my recommendation on this is that it's not they can reject the gifts. It's like you can buy them anything, and it's still not enough. You wouldn't believe the stories I've heard about step-parents taking children on really, really exotic holidays, not just your normal holiday, a really special holiday to see special wildlife or something, and they completely diss it. They misbehave, they're on their phones while they should be looking at the wildlife, or any amount of money, a hugely expensive new laptop or something, and the child just thinks nothing of it, just takes it as though that's part and parcel of what they're entitled to. It's really difficult to be in a situation like the child that has become your stepchild. They are full of vitriol and full of hate, and any amount of kind of money, giving them things for nothing, tolerating bad behaviour endlessly, isn't going to do the trick, isn't going to solve the problem. What we really need is for somebody, and it could be you, to really understand where the child is hurting and try and get them to talk it out and to think it through and get to that hurt, so they don't have to just grab everything in terms of kindness from others and just suck it in all their anger and hate and just carry on. It's really difficult to be that child. And I'm not saying it's easy to be the step-parent in the situation, but if you understand the hate is not about you, you'll be better off. And the business about not tolerating poor behaviour, often the parent will in a way condone it because they feel sorry for the child and they feel guilt and regret about what has happened. And this is tricky because holding firm boundaries is important. And if the parent allows boundaries to be broken and is forever giving in, then the child, through their hate, will just take more and take more and take more. And it's very difficult for you to manage that, because actually that's not in your gift. Because if you hold a boundary and your partner doesn't, then the child can split you, because the parent won't back you. When they break a boundary, they'll side with the child and say, oh, I feel sorry for the child. So that's a conversation you need to have with your partner, and it is not your stepchild's fault. We run workshops, sessions, an email response service, and we write booklets. You can find links to our social media and website in the description box below.